Okay, so recently I was given the opportunity to speak at my MOPS. And for those of you that don't know what MOPS is, it's a Mothers of Preschoolers, and it's held here at a church called Cornerstone. And they're looking for moms to give mini devotionals. And so I felt like I had something to share as far as my story with Leila and how that brought me a better sense of patience. And it brought me to a relationship closer to God. So I volunteered to share my story, and I was just going to post this speech, but I decided it'd probably be better if I read it, because it means a lot to me. So I'm going to go ahead and read it for you, and then Chris is going to post it on our blog, so now you're watching it. So I started by introducing myself, but everyone knows my name already, so I don't need to do that. I'm here to talk about patience. I'm sure as moms we all have more patience than the average woman, yet we could probably still stand to have a little more patience sometimes. I know I could. I'm a mommy to two little girls, Lucia and Leila, ages 4 and 6. I'm currently 21 weeks pregnant with baby number 3, who's also going to be a girl. My girls are very energetic, loud, fun, playful little girls, and they test my patience every day. So I could go on and on about different ways to improve our patience with our children. But today I want to talk to you not about patience in the everyday little things, but patience in a bigger picture. Patience in God's plan for you and your family. So just to give you a little background about myself, I was raised Catholic in very conservative churches. I went to church and catechism every Sunday, but never really truly understood or grasped the idea that I could have a personal relationship with God. God was someone I kneeled and said memorized prayers to every Sunday, not someone I could turn to as a source of comfort or someone I could rely on for strength or patience. As I got older, I fell out of going to church, and when Chris and I got married and had our girls, it was too hard for us to sit through a Mass. So Chris and I moved to Livermore 5 years ago, when Chris, who grew up in Livermore, got a job in Foster City. I'm very blessed to say that I get to be a stay-at-home mommy. I would say I'm a good stay-at-home mom and wife. I try to keep my house clean, cook meals every day, keep my kids clean, stay in shape, but I'm not focusing on that right now. I compliment my hubby all the good stuff a stay-at-home mom is supposed to do. Well, my life was going to plan, and I had everything I had wished for until God decided my little plan needed, I guess you could say, a little tweaking, a little surprise or two. He wanted or needed to test my patience and commitment to my family. This is where it's going to get hard, and I'm probably going to cry. That little surprise happened about 1.5 years ago. My younger daughter, Leila, was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. For those of you who are not familiar with autism, a generic definition from Wikipedia is that it is a disorder of neural development characterized by impaired social interaction and communication and by restricted and repetitive behaviors. No, there's no scale to tell you how autistic your child is, and each child is completely different. The range of characteristics and personalities are huge, just like any typical child. So no, I did not know to see any signs, nor did I see them, and neither did our pediatrician. He assured me twice that Leila had a classic speech delay. I suppose looking back now and watching old home videos, it's quite obvious. Leila liked to play on her own. She wandered the playground without purpose and didn't grasp simple tasks such as opening a birthday present. However, I still didn't even see autism as an option 2 years ago. And when you think of the things that can happen to your children, like kidnapping or cancer, you don't think about the possibility of autism. Or at least I didn't. It wasn't even on my radar. I started trying to get Leila into speech therapy right after she turned 2 because she still wasn't talking. I took her to a private speech therapist through Valley Care, I made it through the assessment, but then our insurance denied any further therapy. So we went to the School of Imagination in Dublin to enroll Leila in the Happy Talkers program. Well, they wouldn't even assess us before telling us to go to the regional center of the East Bay. So after a month of putting off the regional center, I called, and Leila essentially failed the phone interview, enough to have a speech therapist come out to our house and assess Leila the next week. That speech therapist was the first person to look me in the eye and say, yes, Leila does show signs of autism. I remember being on the run the next morning and telling my running buddies what the speech therapist had said, and breaking down in the middle of the run, not being able to breathe, and just scared. So the next week we were sent to have Leila assessed by 2 developmental psychologists, and they confirmed what I had feared. Leila was autistic, and I was devastated. I can remember sitting during the assessment and saying one of many new prayers, praying she was just stubborn, praying for strength to face what I knew was coming. I was 27 when I had Leila. I had her naturally, without the use of any pain medications or epidurals. I nursed Leila for a full year, and I was a stay-at-home mom. Where did I go wrong? That darn mommy guilt was in hyper overdrive. After the shock wore off, and I began to go through the 5 stages of grief. I remember talking, or rather sobbing, to my sister and having her tell me that it was okay to cry. That it was okay to mourn the loss of the child I thought Leila would be. I briefly denied Leila's diagnosis. Again, maybe she was very stubborn. Nope. I isolated away from some friends, afraid I was being too whiny, afraid to burden them with my never-ending list of what could have happened. And then I became angry, very angry. I think my mom's table at the time can attest to that, as I shared it with them at one meeting. I blamed God. I didn't understand why he would do this to my family. I wouldn't say I bargained next, as I don't recall ever asking God to do anything to take Leila's diagnosis away. But then came the depression, and this is the stage that lasted the longest and occasionally flares up every now and then. Probably 10% of the time. I was very sad. Sad for the struggles Leila will face. Sad that my baby wouldn't look me in the eye or say my name. Just sad. My poor Lucy and husband Chris suffered the brunt of my depression. I was impatient, flustered, and mean. So I enrolled myself in therapy, and I started to pray and started to create a more intimate relationship with God. I prayed daily for strength and patience, and slowly, very slowly, I began to snap out of it. I learned a new sense of patience and commitment to what God had planned for me and my family. I realized through prayer and reflection that God has blessed me with a child with special needs because he knew I would be the best mommy for her. Because he saw something in me that nobody else did, and he knew that I would be the perfect fit for Leila. 1 Corinthians 10-13 says, "Every test that you have experienced is the kind that normally comes to people, but God keeps his promise, and he will not allow you to be tested beyond your power to remain firm. At the time you are put to the test, he will give you the strength to endure it, and so provide you with a way out. I can tell you now that I am more stronger emotionally and mentally than I have ever been because of this test. And I can tell you that my way out was through the help and support of Christ. He blessed us with great therapists, awesome resources, and even better family and friends to support us through the past year and a half. Being a mom to a special needs child is different. Like I said, as mothers, we naturally have more patience than the average woman. But as the mother of a special needs child, I sometimes feel I have to have extra patience. Things take longer for Leila. She will be 4 on the 26th, and only started using my name within the last 6 months. Leila struggles daily with using her words to communicate with us. Leila can tell us basic needs like what she wants to eat, but if she gets hurt and I don't see it, she is unable to express what happened, and for that matter, where she is hurting. However, when Leila does hit a milestone or say a new word or phrase on her own, I see my prayers, patience, and strength and commitment for my family come forth in my daughter. If I didn't have a relationship with Christ to help me realize that I am not in control and that He is, I would be in a much different, darker place than I am now. So I would say my ultimate message is that when you are feeling frustrated, when things aren't going as you expected or planned, when your kids have pulled your last nerve and your patience is running thin, remember that there is a bigger plan. Remember that God is patient with you and has a bigger plan for you. Smile, keep your head up, and as I like to say, it will only get easier. It will only get easier. That's it. I think that's the best I've done. I think I've cried a lot when I spoke at MOPS, and I think I did pretty good.